Over the last several weeks, we've been talking about the conversation of faith and what it is. We talked about how faith is made up of the past, present, and future coming together. Last week, we specifically talked about the first of three kinds of faith, which was saving faith. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about faithfulness. Hello, Devoted Geeks, and welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from Devoted Geeks who are devoted to let you know you're loved. I'm Dallas. I'm so glad you've hit the play button today. If you're new to our show, we take geek, pop culture items like movies, video games, comic books, and we use it to let people know that they're loved. So if you don't watch past this moment, know this, we love you, we care about you. There's a plan and a purpose for your life. Do not give up. At the moment, I'm having the revelation that we have been at this for almost 9 straight years. Here in a few weeks is Season 10, the start of our 10th season of Geek Devotions, meaning that we've done this for 9 years straight. Every single Friday, we've produced a devotion basing geek culture and we put it out. And it's been a fun and wild ride. And it's interesting that this is taking place and having these revelations because it really plays into what we're talking about today, which is the conversation of faithfulness. That's what we've been, is we've been faithful to the mission, to the things that we have here. But what is this faithfulness? How does it play in our lives? How do we live faithfully? Well, I want to break that down for you guys, going back to our conversation about the past, the present, and the future. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, guys, I want to encourage you to hit the playlist that's in the show notes and in the card in the corner to check out our series on discovering faith from the beginning. Now, at its core, faithfulness means to be steadfast, to be unwavering, and these words themselves suggest that there is a beginning, there is a starting point to faithfulness. So I teach this class called Spiritual Go Bag. It used to be called Soul Care, but I've reworked it and rebranded it. And in this class, there's this conversation about confession and fellowship. And the reality is there's a tension between the two. You really can't have one without the other. You can't have true fellowship unless there is good, true confession taking place within a group. At the same time, you can't have confession taking place unless there is good fellowship taking place. And so there's this tension. And the only way to break the tension is for somebody to step out and be the example, to start the process. And this is the same thing with faithfulness. We can't have faithfulness really rise up on people until somebody steps out and illustrates it for us well. For the purposes of this devotion, we pointed back to one of my all-time favorite video games. It was called The Ghosts of Tsushima, which is a really great samurai game. I want to encourage you guys to check it out if you ever get a chance to. But within Ghosts of Tsushima, you have this main character named Jin Sakai who is super faithful to the mission and the plan of protecting his homeland, protecting his people, caring for those that are put in his care, if you will. But that inspiration of being faithful first comes from his uncle, Lord Shimura. Now, Lord Shimura he's a shogunate. He runs things, and Jin learns from him. He sees the faithfulness of his uncle, and that in turn inspires him to do the same thing. In Christianity, our faithfulness, yes, we can learn from other people, but our root, the root of faithfulness for us, first comes from God. In Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 through 23, we read, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." God has always been faithful to his people at all times. And that sometimes it's hard for people to grasp because they have an idea of what they want God to do, not realizing that God is going to be faithful to the plan and purposes that he's put out to us, to his word, and to everything else taking place. And when we get into our own heads and we're like, well, but I want it this way, we get it that way, we get our minds kind of warped. We think, well, God's not being faithful to me. No, he always is and always has. But you've chosen to deviate from what he has for you. God is faithful and has been faithful from the beginning. When we go back into the scriptures and we read about his faithfulness, something takes place. And this is the second part of that aspect of faithfulness, that present part where there's emotion that takes place. There's something that stirs up in us when we begin to read the scriptures and we understand just how faithful God is. And that faithfulness of God, it grounds us in a special way. It hits us special, especially when we're going through dark times. Some people, again, they believe that God's faithfulness means that we're never going through hard times, but rather his faithfulness is what gives us strength in the middle of hard times. Back to the game of Ghost of Tsushima, Jin is in a really dark place at the beginning game where everything's falling apart. His uncle's taken, the Mongolians are taking over the land, and he could easily just run away. In fact, he's prompted. Somebody goes, hey, just take your stuff and run. You can survive. But there's something on the inside. He knows that his uncle, who was faithful to the land and to the people, would not give up. And so because of that, he stirred up on the inside to have determination not to surrender, not to give up, but rather to hold strong. As Christians, when we look back on the scriptures, on the word of God, that same thing happens inside of us, even our darkest times. You look at King David, who was, an amazing individual who did all kinds of stuff. But in his darkest times, he wrote some fascinating poetry where he talks about feeling abandoned, feeling like God's not there, like God can't see him, and that everything's just falling apart. But in the middle of that, he says something interesting. Psalms 13, verse 5, "But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation." When David wrote that, again, he was in the middle of a hard time, but he reminded himself of the goodness of God, the faithfulness of God, and that stirred inside of him that while in his present situation things look hopeless and like they're falling apart, because he knows God has always been faithful, he can take courage in the moment. He can kind of gird up his loins, if you will, and be okay in the situation. When we reflect on the goodness of God, the faithfulness of God, the emotions of peace begin to take root in our lives. Hope begins to arise in us. Faithfulness truly begins to bloom. While it's blooming, it's not fulfilled until something specifically takes place. Like we said, with all aspects of faith, you have the intellectual side of understanding the past, the emotionalism that grabs you, but then there's the action step, something beyond it. And this is where faithfulness takes root. See, faithfulness is not just a momentary activity. It's a continual thing where we're continually working through the situation, continually growing, continually moving forward. Even when we mess up, even the darkest times, even when we're doubting things, it's a resolution that sits inside of us that says, I'm going to continue on, even though things are bad for me right now. In the game of Ghosts of Tsushima, Jin finds himself in a really bad place that he has lost literally everything. He has lost his title. He has lost his position of things. He's lost his family heritage, if you will. But still, he is faithful to the mission. He is faithful to the principle given to him to protect the land and to protect the people and to do what needs to be done. As Christians, faithfulness rises up in us and takes root when we go, even though things look bad, and I may lose some things in the process, I'm going to continue to do what God has called me to do. Jesus himself dealt with this. In the scriptures, you see Jesus goes to the garden with his friends to pray, and he leaves them alone. He goes off a little bit further and he begins to pray. It says that he is so stressed out, he has so much anxiety because he knows what's about to come, his crucifixion, that he literally begins to sweat blood, which is a genuine medical condition that takes place when a person is just over and abundantly heaped upon with stress and anxiety. And as he's praying to his Father, he's praying to God, he says, I don't want to do this. And I'm paraphrasing, if you will, but he genuinely tells God, I don't want to do this, Father. I don't want to have to go and suffer what's about to happen. If there's any other way, please take this away from me. Make it so I don't have to go through this suffering. But then he says something special, where faithfulness really takes root. He says, but not my will be done, but yours. Having fears, having doubts, going, I don't want this to be the process I have to walk through to do what needs to be done. That doesn't bother God. He's not scared of that. Jesus himself expressed those same emotions. But where faithfulness comes in is goes, even though these are my emotions, I know that you are good. I know that you are faithful, God. And I'm going to be strengthened with that. And faithfulness takes root in the action of going, not my will, but your will be done. That's where faithfulness really grows and comes out of us. When these three elements come together, that's faithfulness in our lives. And again, it's not just one moment. It's continual. It's the daily choice of getting up and going, I will serve the Lord. I will do what he's called me to do. I will be in the scriptures. I will be in prayer. I will do as he says for me to do. I will preach the gospel. I will share my faith with other people. That daily decision is what faithfulness is. And again, it comes from all these other elements coming together. I'm coming in on the post side recording this portion, which is why it looks a little different. I got my headphones on right now. I started this whole thing off by talking about how the revelation of, like, it's been almost 9 whole years, every single Friday, creating a devotion, putting the stuff out, and how it was an act of faithfulness on our part. And I want to make sure it's clear, like, all this is all to the glory of God. We do this because it's what he's called us to do. And it has been a journey for us. It has been, we've had to make sacrifices on, you know, when to record things, when to be at places, when to do certain aspects, who to have do certain things with us, to be faithful to the mission that we have. And there have been hard times. There have been times where Celeste and I were really worn out and exhausted. And there were some very big, emotional, deep things taking place. And there were some questions if we could continue moving forward at times. We have suffered through times where we were like, man, like, does anybody care? Are these being effective? And one of the things I've learned, that as we are faithful and we are reminded of God's faithfulness, that he turns and becomes even more faithful to us, pours out blessings and takes care of us in ways that we didn't expect. And it's humbling. I want to make sure this is understood. This is a humbling thing to be faithful. And when you see God's blessings poured out, it should become even more humbling as you walk this out. And before I go back into what I was originally doing here, I want to say thank you to every person who's been with us along the road, because faithfulness, while we are inspired by the Lord and we're walking this out, it's often strengthened by community. We have had community members who have strengthened us every step of the way. Close friends, our church, family members. They have inspired us. They have held us up. They have provided for us in miraculous ways, and we are in awe and thankful for them, because they have helped us to continue to be faithful. You need to be in a community of people who can help you to be faithful to the things God's called you to be. My question of the week for you guys is this. Tell us a story where you really had to work through that process to be faithful, where you had to make that hard decision to do what God called you to do, whatever it was. And again, it could be something big, it could be something minor, because the minor things, honestly, those are the biggest steps to being continually faithful with the Lord. Leave those comments down below and let us know, because those stories that you share strengthen the faithfulness of everyone else who reads them. Now, guys, there's a lot of things happening here at Geek Devotions. We have our podcasts coming out. We have our website, geekdevotions.com, where we're working on putting some more content out on the website also. But we have some big events taking place also. On August 2nd, Celeste and I will be at the Credo Homeschool Convention taking place here in Shreveport, Louisiana. It will be at the Emmanuel Baptist Church, and if you're interested, come by and check it out. Also, don't forget, on August 22nd to 24th, Celeste and I will be at GeekCon here in Shreveport, Louisiana. We'll have a booth there, and at both these events, guys, come by our tables, shake our hands, let us love on you for a little bit, and then just go and be the best part of any con, the people. Encourage each other, check things out, and grow together. Now, to be perfectly honest with you guys, the only reason we're able to do these things is because of our amazing devoted Patreon geeks. Thanks to them and their support that comes through on a monthly basis, we're able to not just go to these cons, but get the equipment and stuff we need to do these devotions. Now, if you would like to help support us, either through Patreon or any other way, go to our website, geekdevotions.com, and click on our support page, where you can find all the information there. Now, obviously, not everybody can help support us financially, and we totally get that, and we understand. But that doesn't mean you can't help support us. You guys can support us in big ways, like praying for us, encouraging us, leaving comments in the comment sections of our videos, sharing them out, taking part in our community on Facebook, on Instagram, and in our Discord channel, taking part in these things, in the conversations. Guys, these are amazing ways for you to help us to grow, but also to fulfill the mission of Geek Devotions, which is simply this: letting people know that they're loved. If you guys want any more information, visit our website, geekdevotions.com. And until next time, stay devoted. Peace and love.